Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you for that beautiful worship music. It really lifts my heart up to God. As Nathaniel has already said, we're going to start to study a new book in the Bible, the book of Job. And we've given a title, Seeking Sense in Suffering. We try and make sense out of suffering. We try and understand. And it's one of the biggest questions we ask ourselves as Christians. Why would God allow this horrible thing to happen? Why are there wars? Why are there sicknesses? Why are little children sometimes very ill and die? And non-Christians ask us this question. It's a hard question to answer. So the book of Job will give us some answers to this question. The main thought that I think will come through as we study the book of Job is that although we never fully understand suffering, we can fully trust God. Although we will never fully understand suffering, even at the end, Job doesn't fully understand, but we can fully trust God. And there will be 5 teachings on the book of Job. I'll just give you the titles, but I won't explain for now. Today is When Bad Things Happen to Good People. And then in 2 weeks' time, Being a Comfort to Those Who Suffer. Advice from Job's friends on what not to do. Complaining to God. Job shows us that our prayers can sometimes be complaints. And we will see other prayers of complaint to God in the Bible. And then trusting without understanding. Job will submit to God's sovereignty without understanding. And then transformed through suffering. We'll see how Job's relationship with God grew during suffering and how our own relationship with God can grow. But today the title is Bad Things Do Happen to Good People. And really this is the main message of the first few chapters of Job. And it's important that we have this in our Bible, because there are some people, and I think all of us to a certain extent, we have what I'm going to call retribution theology. You're going to say, what is retribution theology? Retribution theology is a belief about God. It's like this. If you obey God, God blesses you and He will keep you from all harm. You won't have any accidents. You won't get sick. And nothing bad will happen to you. Because you obey God, God blesses you. It's like a deal. And if you disobey God, well then God punishes you. And many people believe this, and I think even in our own hearts we believe this a little bit. We expect God to bless us and protect us because we love and serve Him. And yet, it's not totally true according to the Bible and the book of Job. That's one of the things that will tell us that this is not totally true, because this belief about God, if I do something for you, then you must do something for me. It's kind of like making a deal with God. But God never owes anything to anybody. God never owes anything to anybody. I remember a teenager I had in one church where I was. He was about 15 years old. He was quite athletic, and he liked to do dangerous sports. And one thing he liked to do was skateboarding. So he would go up to the top of a mountain road and skateboard down the road like at 50, 60 kilometers an hour on a skateboard. And one day I told him, be careful, you might break your neck. And he said, oh, I'm a Christian. Jesus is going to protect me. I said, well, Jesus never promised to protect you on a skateboard at 60 kilometers an hour on a windy road. It's also what we sometimes call prosperity gospel. Prosperity gospel is when a preacher like me says, come to Jesus and everything is going to go well for you. You will be healed. You will get rich. Your family will be wonderful. All that. This is wrong teaching, and Job is going to show us this. And life shows this to us, right? I'm going to tell you 4 stories, very short, and then I'm going to come back to these 4 stories at the end of my sermon. These are people who were good friends of mine and who have suffered terribly, although they are wonderful Christians. First story, I had a teacher by the name of Henry. He was a wonderful man. I looked up to him. He was a mentor for me. He taught me many things as a young pastor and helped me grow in my faith. Henry got a lung cancer when he was about my age or a bit younger. But he had never smoked, never drank. He just got lung cancer and nobody knows why, and he died. And he was young to die. Second story. In one church where I was a pastor, there was a couple, beautiful Christian couple, but they were never able to have children. And so they had adopted 2 children, but they had terrible suffering with at least one of their children, both actually, but one of their children got into drugs and prostitution. Can you imagine your own child in drugs and prostitution? And it broke their hearts and they were so sad. And yet, they were godly people. They worshiped the Lord. He was an elder in our church and people looked up to them as good Christian examples. So bad things do happen to good people. Third story. I have another friend who was a pastor in the Paris region. His name was Edward. And he was very gifted pastor, very influential. He had started a whole network of churches in the Paris region, and he'd had a great influence on the Christian churches in France. And he had a beautiful family, a wife and 4 children, and they went on holidays one summer 4 years ago, and he was doing rock climbing, and his son, who was 16 years old, was down at the bottom with the ropes doing the security for his dad who was climbing. His dad slipped and fell, and the son had done something wrong with the ropes. His dad fell to his death in front of his family, mother and 4 children. Last story. I'm making you sad today. When I was a pastor in Gap, just 1 hour's drive north from here, a young couple came to work with us, like interns, like Victor and Naomi are working with us here. They were a young married couple and they had a baby, 18 months old. We had a special day for our church, something like the baptisms we had last Sunday. And during that special day, when the whole church was gathered, this child drowned in the swimming pool, 18 months old. Bad things happen to good people who worship and serve God. Let me get into the book of Job now, and I will come back to those stories. There's a happier ending to those stories. Job is a little bit like watching a play, but it's a special kind of play because there are 2 stages. There's one on the ground floor, on the bottom, on an earthly stage where we see Job, who is suffering terribly, and his 3 friends who try to come and comfort him and teach him. But they cannot see what's going on the second stage, up above. Up above on the second stage, you see God and Satan. Now, I'm sorry for the pictures because I don't like to represent God or Satan, but it's just to give us an idea of the 2 stages, okay? And so Satan and God are talking, and they can see what's happening down at the bottom, and they can intervene in what's happening in the bottom. But Job and his friends can't see up there. So what is happening? On the heavenly stage, God and Satan can see Job and intervene in his life. And Satan is challenging God. He's trying to mock God. He's trying to take away from God's glory. And he says, actually, true faith doesn't really exist. Job trusts in you. Job has faith in you because you are buying his faithfulness. You're blessing him. You've given him a beautiful family. You've given him lots of riches. You've given him fame. No wonder he blesses and loves you. It's just a deal between you and Job. But then Satan says, take that away and you will see that Job will curse you to your face. So Satan is trying to say there is no true faith. Okay. Meanwhile, on the earthly stage, Job is suffering. He and his friends are unaware of what's going on, this discussion between God and Satan. And God is going to say to Satan, okay, I give you permission to take those things away from Job. And we will see if he still loves me, if he is still faithful to me. So Job is kind of a test case to see if true faith can really exist or not. Job's friends, they accuse him of sin. They are based on retribution theology. That is, they say, bad things have happened to you, therefore you have done something wrong and God is punishing you. That's what Job's friends were saying to him. We'll see that later on. But Job's reactions are going to prove that real faith does exist, even in hardship, and that God doesn't buy our faithfulness. That our faithfulness can be given freely to God. Now we're ready to read the Bible. So Job chapter 1, I'm going to read from verse 1 until chapter 2, verse 10. There was a man who lived in the land of Uz. His name was Job. He was honest. He did what was right. He had respect for God and avoided evil. Job had 7 sons and 3 daughters. He owned 7,000 sheep and 3,000 camels. He owned 500 pairs of oxen and 500 donkeys. He also had a large number of servants. He was the most important man among all the people in the East. His sons used to give feasts in their homes on their birthdays. They would invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. The time for enjoying good food would end. Then Job would make plans for his children to be made pure and clean. He would sacrifice a burnt offering for each of them. He would do it early in the morning. He would think, perhaps my children have sinned. Maybe they have spoken evil things against God in their hearts. That's what Job always did for his children when he felt that they had sinned. Job is like a priest, a pastor for his family. One day, angels came to the Lord. Satan also came with them. So now we're on the first we were looking at the bottom screen, what's going on earth, and now we're looking at the top stage, okay? One day angels came to the Lord. Satan also came with them. The Lord said to Satan, where have you come from? Satan answered, from traveling around the earth. I've been going from one end of it to the other. Then the Lord said to Satan, have you thought about my servant Job? There isn't anyone on earth like him. He's honest, he does what is right, he has respect for God and avoids evil. You always give Job everything he needs, Satan replied. That's why he has respect for you. Haven't you guarded him and his family? Haven't you taken care of everything he has? You've blessed everything he does. His flocks and herds are spread all through the land. But now, reach out your hand, strike down everything he has, then I'm sure he will speak evil things against you. In fact, he'll do it right in front of you. The Lord said to Satan, all right, I'm handing everything he has over to you, but do not touch the man himself. Then Satan left the Lord and went on his way. Back down to the earthly stage now, the bottom stage. One day, Job's sons and daughters were at their oldest brother's house. During that time, a messenger came to Job. He said, the Sabaeans attacked us and carried off the animals. They killed some of the servants with their swords. While he was speaking, a second messenger came. He said, God sent lightning from the sky. It struck the sheep and killed them. It would burn up some of the servants. While he was still speaking, a third messenger came. He said, the Chaldeans attacked your camels and carried them off. They killed the rest of the servants with their swords. While he was still speaking, a fourth messenger came. He said, your sons and daughters were at their oldest brother's house. They were enjoying good food and drinking wine. Suddenly a strong wind blew in from the desert. It struck the 4 corners of the house. The house fell down on your children. Now all of them are dead. And I'm the only one who has escaped to tell you. After this, after Job heard all these reports, he got up and tore his robe. He shaved his head. Then he fell to the ground and worshipped the Lord. He said, I was born naked. I will leave here naked. The Lord has given. The Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised or blessed. In spite of everything, Job didn't sin by blaming God for doing anything wrong. Back up to the top stage in heaven. On another day, angels came to the Lord. Satan also came to him along with them. The Lord said to Satan, where have you come from? Satan answered, from traveling all around the earth. I've been going from one end of it to the other. Then the Lord said to Satan, have you thought about my servant Job? There isn't anyone on earth like him. He is honest. He does what is right. He has respect for God and avoids evil. You tried to turn me against him. You wanted me to destroy him without any reason, but he still continues to be faithful. Satan replied, a man will give everything he has to save himself. So Job is willing to give up the lives of his family to save his own life. But now, reach out your hand and strike his flesh and his bones, his health. Then I'm sure he will speak evil things against you. In fact, he'll do it right in front of you. The Lord said to Satan, all right, I'm handing him over to you. But you must spare his life. Back down to the earthly stage now. Then Satan left the Lord and went on his way. He sent painful sores on Job. They covered him from the bottom of his feet to the top of his head. He got part of a broken pot. He used it to scrape his skin. He did it while he was sitting in ashes. His wife said to him, are you still continuing to be faithful to the Lord? Speak evil things against him and die. Job replied, you're talking like a foolish woman. We accept good things from God, so we should also accept trouble when he sends it. In spite of everything, Job didn't say anything that was sinful. God will bless the reading of his word. I have 3 points to make this morning. The first one is this, that God does allow bad things to happen to good people. We've already been saying this. Job was a very good man. He was honest. He did what was right. He had respect for God. He avoided evil. He was the most important man in his country, a great father, a spiritual guide for his family. Job was not sinning against God. This was not a punishment against Job. So the book of Job refutes or attacks, debunks retribution theology. You remember what retribution theology is? If you love God, he will bless you. If you disobey God, he will punish you. Retribution theology wrongly interprets the book of Proverbs. You wonder, how do people get this notion? Often they use verses in the book of Proverbs. Like, look at these 2 verses. No harm comes to godly people, but sinners have lots of trouble. Or hard times fall on those who are sinful, but those who do right are rewarded with good things. Well, isn't that retribution theology? Well, we have to talk about the way of interpreting different books in the Bible. The Bible is a collection of different books, right? And each book is written in a different manner. They're what we call literary genre or literary styles. And like a parable, you don't interpret it the same way as a text of law. Or a piece of poetry, you don't interpret it in the same way as a historical account. And a proverb is interpreted again in a different kind of way. So what kind of book are the Proverbs? The Proverbs are what we call a wisdom book. You have to kind of imagine an old man sitting on the bench. He's lived a long life. He's sitting on the bench in his village, and he's looking at the different families in the village and the different houses in front of him. And he's thinking about life And he looks at one house, he sees it's very well painted and kept up. Everything is nicely repaired. The garden is all perfect. There's no weeds in the garden. And the kids are very well behaved and they're doing well at school and all that. It's a family that's blessed. And they said, that family's been working hard. And because they've been working hard, they're doing well. And then he looks over at another house. The shutters are falling off and there's a hole in the roof and there's big weeds in the garden. And he knows that man who lives there. He says, that's a lazy man. And because he's lazy, his house and his family are not doing well. So then he makes a proverb. We have proverbs like this in English as well. Early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. In French, we say, l'avenir appartient à ceux qui se lèvent tôt. These are proverbs. It's a generalization about life that is true. These verses are true. But there are exceptions to these generalizations. It is a proverb. Some people get up early, work hard all day, go to bed early, and end up poor. That happens, doesn't it? But in general, if you want to do well in life, you get up early and you work hard and you go to bed early. It's just true. It's truth about life. But it is a generalization. So I think what Job is saying to us, when you see somebody that is suffering, don't automatically say that person has been doing wrong. In the Gospels, some of the people, they saw a man who was blind from birth, John chapter 9. And they said to Jesus, this man is blind, so obviously somebody has sinned. Was it him who sinned, or was it his parents who sinned? But Jesus said, no, it wasn't him, it wasn't his parents. Okay. Jesus was not into retribution theology. And the biggest argument against this retribution theology is this, that throughout the Bible, many very important people had very difficult trials in life. The prophets that God had chosen to speak to his people, Israel, they were rejected, they were beaten, they were put in prison, they were killed. The apostles who went out sharing the gospel, they were rejected, beaten, put in prison, and killed. And Jesus himself. And yet Jesus never sinned, right? So there is no automatic connection between obeying God and being protected by God. Let's go on to the next main point. This is important. When trials come, when bad things happen, God is still in control. We see this in our book. God is still in control, which means that our world is not absurd or meaningless. It's not a struggle either between equal powers of good and evil, because there are lots of explanations for evil. In some religions, you would say, if something bad happens to you, it's your karma. That is, in another life, you did something bad, so you're being punished for the bad that you did. The Bible doesn't teach us that at all. And in some religions, good and evil are equal powers. Sometimes good wins, sometimes evil wins, and it'll go on like that forever, balance between good and evil. The Bible doesn't teach us that either. The Bible says God is more powerful than Satan, and that good will triumph in the end. And we see it in this passage, don't we? When Satan wants to do evil to Job, God gives him permission. He says, you can do this much, but you stop here. You can't go further than that. Then Satan comes back again, says, okay, now to touch his health. So God says, okay, you can touch his health, but you don't take his life. So who is in control? God is in control. This is very important when we are suffering. We don't always understand why we're suffering. We don't see the upstairs stage. We don't know what's going on. But we can trust God during that time. Last point. It is possible to show faith even when life gets hard. It is possible to show faith even when life gets hard. Did you see the deep, wonderful things that Job says when he is suffering so much? He's just lost his children. And he says, the Lord has given, the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. We sang that this morning. Will we be able to sing it when something difficult happens to us? In spite of everything, Job didn't sin by blaming God for doing anything wrong. And then when Satan touches his health and takes his health away, he says, well, we accept the good things from God, so we should also accept the trouble when he sends it. In spite of everything, Job didn't say anything that was sinful. Is this just a story, or is this possible in your life? Is it possible? I'm going to go back to the 4 stories that I told you at first. Remember my friend Henry got a terminal cancer, fairly young. And when he learned that he was going to die from cancer, he wrote a book about God and suffering, where he teaches all the things that I've been teaching you this morning. He was able to use his time of suffering to glorify God, to bless God, and to teach others. That was the first story. The second story was about our friends who had terrible problems with their children. They did not abandon the faith. They stayed faithful to God. They kept on serving the church. He served as an elder. They kept on encouraging others. Although they were very sad, they blessed God. Third story. So Edward Nelson was his name. He died in the rock climbing accident. His wife's name was Laura. She was left all of a sudden, in a few seconds, with 4 children to raise. And many people in France, he was very well known in France, he was well known in the UK as well. And many people sent money to Laura to help her raise her children. In fact, they sent more money than what she needed. So do you know what she did? She started a charitable foundation. She didn't take the money for herself. Maybe she took some to help her raise the children, I don't know. But the majority she put in a special account. It doesn't belong to her. There's an association with a chairman and a board that looks after this account. And the money goes to help young people who are training to be pastors. So if we have Victor and Naomi with us today, it's partly because of this fund that is helping to support them. This is what Laura Nelson did with the money she received when her husband died. And I've talked with this lady. When you're finished talking with her, you just want to praise God and say, God is real. God helps us in our worst trials. Last story. The young couple, their names were Renald and Isabel. So this horrible drama in their life and in the whole church, but in their life, this baby who drowned. We did a ceremony for the funeral of the baby, and I preached. It was not an easy sermon to preach. But Renald, the father, he said, I would like to participate. I would like to say something during the ceremony. So he came up. There was many people came for this burial. And he quoted a verse from the Bible. Do you know which one? The Lord has given. The Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. So it is possible to remain faithful to God even in the worst trials. We're not in a deal with God where I do this for you and you do that for me. That would be to reduce God to like a vending machine. You know, you put in €2 and the bottle comes out. Our relationship with God is not like that. It is a real relationship a human relationship. Most of all, we know that God loves us because of what Jesus Christ has done for us. Jesus is our supreme example of staying faithful to God during suffering. When he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he knew that in just a few hours he would be arrested, beaten, spit upon, mocked, crucified on a cross, he said to the Father, "Not my will, but yours be done." And because of his suffering, we have received life. So God's will is sometimes that his children suffer. But he also always has a higher purpose in that suffering. We're now going to take communion.